It's 4 o'clock. We'll call the community safety excuse me, meeting to order for Tuesday, January 13th. It's 4 p.m. We have a few additions to the agenda. Councillor Heed, you had a couple things you wanted to add?
Right here. The first issue I'd like to add to this is an encampment that has been located on Jacooms Road here in Richmond, just east of the freeway and north of Westminster Highway. And Mr. Corrado was aware of this. The other one is the incident, unfortunate and tragic incident at Cambion 3 Road around Browngate involving a young fella that's struggling to keep alive in the hospital, and the circumstances surrounding that led up to it, the possibility of it being in a party or event in a building that may not have had the proper permitting. And the third one is the national story regarding the travel agent in Lansdowne Centre that has had their license removed by the Consumer Protection Branch.
Okay, we'll make that the encampment 5.1, the Cambion 3 Road incident 5.2, travel agent 5.3, business license, and we got a letter the other day commenting about overgrown hedges, so I'll add that as 5.4. So to amend the agenda as described. All in favor? Second, thanks. Minutes of the meeting? Second, all in favor? Next committee meeting date is February 10th, 2026, 4 p.m. right here. Don't be late. Community bylaws monthly activity report. Mr. Corrado.
To the chair, I have nothing further to add, and I'm open to questions.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you for the report. Easy to read as always. I just had a question about CS 13, the parking enforcement revenue comparison chart. 2025 is listed in purple, which is higher on every single month. And then also over to page 14, also in purple, is the parking violation issuance comparison. Is this because we have extra staff in that department, or why is it that there's such a significant increase in those?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, definitely the full staffing complement has been a boon to us in terms of our enforcement. It's also a combination of other issues, such as our intelligence-led initiatives to identify hot spots and hot times for parking enforcement. And in addition to the staffing and analytics component, there's the introduction of cutting-edge technologies like license plate recognition and AI, which has enabled us to particularly come down hard on time violations. Those are when vehicles are in excess of the time allotment for hours. That enables our staff to free up and respond to calls for service and to target other activities, as well as that it generates a lot of intelligence and data that we can mine. We are anticipating that trend to continue towards the end of the year, so it should be a record-breaking year for revenue.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you through the chair. Thanks for the report. Just a couple of questions and comment. So CS 12, the stop work removal orders. There's a couple of familiar faces on here from the past. Well, just first of all, just the sheer volume of of the orders is tireless work for our bylaw officers. So commending them for being so proactive and trying to stop this from happening and getting the properties in compliance. You might not be able to answer anything directly as far as individuals, but just regarding, maybe you can do a memo or follow-up email or something, but 11400 number 2 road, in the first column, the first one, that in the past, that was the one with the giant concrete wall that had to be removed, and then they blocked access to the leasing farmer. And so now there's been another order. And what I've noticed is that they've actually fenced off the inside parcel that I think the intention is to landscape according to the real estate drawings, which would be fountains and concrete and everything. So they blocked the access to the leasing farm, the farmland in the back again, which I don't even think is being leased, but, so they're supposed to have access to their farm, their 27 acres in the back. So maybe they could follow up on if that's happening or if that's part of the order.
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, definitely I can follow up on that and get back to you. I will note that that's one of the locations that's responsible for a fair chunk of the ticket issuance for the month of November. As you can see on CS15, there were 32 soil-related tickets issued, and that's certainly been helped by the fact that we have our second soil bylaw enforcement officer who's really sort of picked up our capacity to deal with a lot of these calls for service.
Great, yeah, thanks. And just one more is the 20371 Westminster Highway. That's the smaller property in front of that larger property and they had done an application through the Food Security and Agriculture Advisory Committee didn't recommend it, that we forwarded it to the ALC, so they went to the ALC directly, and they did have a permit. So then I guess this offense is they went above and beyond what they were permitted to do, because they do have an order that they were allowed to do something.
Through the chair to Councillor Glander, certainly I can get back to you with
Yeah.
the details on that and whether they adhere to the conditions of the permits.
Perfect, yeah, just curious. And then I just wanted to comment on CS 16, the property use revenue and expenses spreadsheet, just looking at the numbers and how they're lining up, some things higher than expected and some things lower than expected, but all in all, it's so close to what we had budgeted for the year, so I just want to say great job on the accurate budgeting. Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders too, we're forecasting there should be some surpassing of our revenue targets too by year end.
Thanks.
Councillor McNulty?
Just quickly, I just want to follow up on page 13 and parking enforcement. I commend you for 21 school patrols. I don't know who goes there, and they're pre-scheduled in advance and prioritized, et cetera. Is there not a responsibility of the school district and the public, though? The school district saying, you know, getting to their, especially in the elementary school. A person at secondary, probably kids drive to school, but take their cars if they can park. But what's the nature of that patrol? What are violations for us to have them?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, to your first point, there is extensive dialogue where there's hotspot areas that have been generated, and we work with the school district to put out reminders to parents, in some cases parents that are prolific kind of violators, to have that discussion about the dangers of that type of behavior. And particularly, we're worried about cars that are double parked, which are, you know, forcing people to make dangerous maneuvers into oncoming traffic. Particularly dangerous are people that park on crosswalks, because that forces children to go around that, and potentially it's really difficult for oncoming traffic to see them. So we stress the importance of those types of violations and we prioritize them. So our school patrol units are aware of certain hotspots and certain hot times, and there's a zero tolerance policy for that type of behavior, whereas you might see other parking related violations where there's an education first approach. But when it comes to safety, we skip that and we move towards enforcement.
Yeah, I guess being a former educator, just quickly, what we used to do, and of course, I'm not sure what the district is doing, many of the perpetrators around the school are the very parents who have a child in the school. So we used to say, you know, tell your daddy, he spun out in the parking lot and, you know, it's not safe. And I guess I'm one of the role of the school and the school district. It's great for us to do it. But if we're talking community safety, what have you, they're the same people that have an interest in that building. And so I think the schools, and depending on the principals and the administration, need to take active role. And I guess at elementary school, I know one time, do they not have school patrol still? Or they have some semblance of that, or parent patrol?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, I believe there are certain schools that do have very proactive communications programs with parents where they're actively interested in people that are repeat offenders, but it's not uniform across the board. So it speaks to the need to maybe have discussions at a district level and standardize some of these points. But certainly we can look at expanding that program and enhancing it, because we certainly we want that preventative aspect to be out there at the forefront.
No, I thought the way you worded it was rather interesting, because if you were at McGee or Maple Grove, you'd only speak down Maple Grove once, because they'd get you tomorrow and they'd stop you. And I won't say who would do it. But anyhow, thank you for the report, good report.
Councillor Heed?
Just in relation to that, what is our complaints on speeds in school zones lately, and what are our statistics show for children hit or whatever?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, perhaps I can defer that question to my my counterpart, the chief from the RCMP, that may be able to answer that question regarding some of those statistics.
Yeah, Chief, if you don't have it today, just maybe you can let us know, because, you know, if we do have an ever-increasing issue, we should probably look at some response from the city perspective, at least on it, and of course, in conjunction with the RCMP, if the stats bear that.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, certainly we can work with our colleagues from the RCMP to compile their statistics that are coming in through Prime. And then if we receive any complaints through the bylaw request mechanism regarding speeding, it's not uncommon that we'll receive parking related and speeding complaints. The speeding component, we refer to our colleagues from the RCMP, but we can mine our databases and determine if there is an increase in trends or there's a geographic specificity for hotspots.
Look, we want to prevent it from starting. I can tell you right now, I know with the amount of work that our police officers do, they don't necessarily be there. But I can tell you one thing. You park a bylaw car on the street with the orange lights flashing during the times that there is a problem, I guarantee you they'll slow down.
Just for reference to, in our online package under the advisory committee is Traffic Safety Advisory Committee minutes of all the meetings that happen. So, and those are between the City of Richmond Engineering, Public Works, and the school board together, working together. So you can see what the complaints, the issues are, and see how they're coming together. Okay. We have a motion? Second? All in favor? Thank you. Richmond Fire Rescue?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I have nothing further to add to the report, but I'm happy to answer any questions from your committee.
Councillor Day?
I thank you so much again for an easy-to-read report. Question, we had that tragic fire on 7th Avenue right by Gary Point where so many people were displaced from that apartment building. Did that building, it's an older building, have like automatic systems that would alert the fire department, or did you have to wait for someone to call it in?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, my understanding is that somebody called 911 and we responded that way.
Okay, well, it's a good thing you got there as quickly as you did. I was talking to staff in the planning department, and they're going to try to fast track the permits to get people back in those apartments by just dividing, like putting a barrier wall up so that the part that's okay can get rehabitated. But first, they got to apply for the permit, so it's in their court right now. So thank you for your hard work. Thank you for saving as much as you did.
Thank you.
Yes, we received a memo on it yesterday in your package.
Yep.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, just to quickly, kudos to the men and women of Local 1286 for doing the wonderful environmentally culling and putting away of all the Christmas trees. I want to say thank you very much to them, and I pass that on to them. Yoan, on Saturday, it was a torrential rain. I happened to go down there on both days, and the people that had the afternoon and Sunday shift lucked out. They should have bought coffee for everybody, because the poor guys and gals on the semi, but kudos all around. I don't think the public is aware as much as what they were all there on their volunteer time. They weren't on duty, and they did a great job, as they do every year. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I'll certainly pass that on. Yes, absolutely.
Councillor Hobbs?
Thanks, and through the chair. Thanks for the report. Just one comment and kind of question is regarding the fire on 7th, there were a lot of people displaced. I think 23 people evacuated, and I think 7 kind of on a longer term basis. So can you just comment a little bit on the fact that the housing needs have been met for people? And Councillor Day referred to the permitting, and I think we're accelerating that as much as we can. But can you just comment on how that was handled? Because it's a big issue when people lose their homes and being homeless. And so I think that everything has been handled quite quickly, and you could maybe comment on that so the public has an idea of how well it worked out considering the tragedy that happened.
Certainly, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, my staff, I couldn't be more proud of them for the work they did that night, putting the fire out. They did an exceptionally good job. I think the larger story was the human story about the evacuees and how those people were accommodated and managed that evening. And so that was a combination, collaborative team effort between the emergency program staff that work for Richmond Fire and a number of Canadian Red Cross community volunteers. And so those people, and with the help of the RCMP on scene that night, we corralled all of the evacuees from the building, drove them down to the community center and registered them. Every person that was evacuated that night, my understanding is that they had tenant insurance. And so that is really the key for them to receive expedited support as soon as possible at their own convenience and in their own comfort level. A minor issue that was happening that night, because the fire happened so late, a lot of those people were not able to reach their insurers. And so through the provincial program, our staff accommodated them into hotels for, I think, up to 3 evenings until they were able to get their insurance working. I also understand, too, that of all of the people that were evacuated from that building, only a very small number were not able to find long-term accommodation either with friends or family locally. And so those are the 7 people, or the 7 households that have been accommodated for a long term through the provincial program managed by our admin team. And so there's a combination, there's a lot of factors that have been played in order to make sure everybody was looked after immediately and for a long term. And I think that really was the large story coming out of that evening.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, that's kind of what we talk about when all of government response, all of community response. And so that worked out, I think, as well as it could. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Glanders?
Thank you, through the chair. Thanks for the report. Great work by everybody, as always. And I just wanted to highlight on CS21 and CS22, just all of the programs, the outreach education, as well as emergency programs that were held all around. Do you always do this many, or was it a lot in November, or you're just showing them all to us? Or do you always include these in the reports? I just don't remember seeing so many. It's great to see.
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, depending on the season and depending on the availability of our customer base, sometimes we have more events than other months. But certainly November, December, January, particularly too when young people are not necessarily in school and there's more opportunities for us to access them.
Yeah, great job on that. And I also want to comment on CS26 on the charts that you provided showing the whole year to date. Councillor, he might have mentioned it as well, but because I think you've been asking for it. And so it came up in the last meeting, we both mentioned it would be helpful to just to see the trends versus just not just last year on this month, but the year-to-date totals. So it's really helpful for me to get a clearer picture on what's happening out there. I really appreciate that chart. So good job. Thanks.
Councillor
That's
Heed?
Yes, just one question. Yeah, thanks for that information. It does help, especially when you transpose that with what the RCMP drug-related calls are and that. I guess in relation to this, have we found out, is there a way to gather all the statistics from Coastal Health or BC EHS into one? I know you've been looking at that for a period of time, so we can get those ones that your units don't respond to.
Certainly. Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I can't recall exactly how long ago, but I did draft and submit a referral report to this committee on all of those other stats that I was able to gain access to. It's challenging to track down either from the CDC, from Coastal Health, the coroner, and then compile it into a report that would be presentable coming out of my office for that. But those stats are available publicly, and I believe some of those agencies publish either quarterly or annually. And so I'm certainly not adverse to doing that again. However, it was an administrative challenge to pull that together and get it to you in a reasonably timely fashion.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it should be your responsibility. I know you volunteered to do that. I just want to make a point of, I can't believe us as a local government cannot get an actual stat every month on what our overdose due to the toxic drugs out there are every month. You know, I would probably look at Coastal Health as that's something that they should be providing to us monthly, because we, you know, from day one when we sat around this table, when I was here, we'd been kind of figuring out how we can do this. So I'm not sure, Madam Chair, what we could do, whether it's even going to be worthwhile to write a letter to, is Mina, who's our doctor?
Our public health officer?
Public health officer.
Well, why don't we conclude move this, and then you can create a referral
Yeah,
to them, because this is outside of fire rescue specifically. So, motion on fire rescue monthly activity report, second, all in favor? And let's do the fire chief briefing as well, and then we'll let
Thanks,
him go.
and I have nothing to verbally update you for today, so I'll
Thank
let
you.
you go. Thank you very much.
No more fires? Okay, great. Okay, Councillor Heed, do you want to make a referral to send a letter to the public health officer and Vancouver Coastal Health requesting information on,
monthly overdoses within the city proper.
deaths or just overdoses or
Overall.
both?
Both. You know, I'm not, I think we've got a good idea of the location because it hasn't moved. It's here or it's down near Smith. And there was one anomaly, I think it was on Garden City or something like that here in this month's map, but it's consistently in those two areas. So we don't necessarily need that. I'd just really like to know the numbers.
Okay, so, did you get the referral to that? Yeah, so the referral is to send a letter to the public health officer and Vancouver Coastal Health requesting information, monthly information on overdoses in city, overdose and deaths by overdose. Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. RCMP monthly activity report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I don't have anything to add to my report. Happy to take any question.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, again, just a commendation. Very often we pick up our information in the news, and I want to say thank you very much for increasing the coffers by $10,000+ at the donations of the Uber drivers that don't qualify. Unfortunately, I wish the public would continue to be aware that many of these people are not qualified and stop using them. But I want to thank the RCMP detachment for the ongoing on these people. We brought this up a number of years ago, even before your time, when we used to have international students coming off the plane and picking up a cab, if you wish, at the airport and not knowing where they were going and coming to some of our international schools here in Richmond. And obviously, the issue hasn't changed since then, and people are still using them. But I'm glad we haven't heard too much from YVR with young people not getting to the places of their destination. So with that, thank you very much, and pass that on to everybody. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Councillor Glanders?
Thanks, through the chair, thanks for the report. Just going to go through a couple of the stats just to highlight the good news stories. So the arson on CS40 down 31%. Assault with a weapon, 36% decrease from previous month, 4% compared to the same period last year, and below the average range. And on the next page, there were no unprovoked incidents involving strangers. So all of the assaults were involving family members. So, you know, that just really gives a picture about how safe our streets are, and things are you know, trending in the right direction out there. The auto theft, 17% down in the same period of last year. But they are up a bit from last month. 12% decrease in mental health calls. Now, the commercial break and enter, so there's an increase in these, a 33% increase, up 23% from down from last year in the same period. How do the, where does the shoplifting fit in with the commercial break and enter? So what's the difference between the two? And I know we've done a lot of work on the shoplifting, so how does that correlate to the commercial break and enters?
Yes, through the chair to Councilor Glanders. We have a lot of construction happening in this city, a lot of development going on. And with that comes tools and equipments and other items that are stored just behind a fence.
Right.
And they're easily visible to those who want to take advantage of the opportunity. So that, I have seen that has really increased those type of commercial break and enters for us, because there are just so many opportunities out there. And it's critical for those who are, you know, in development and in that industry to ensure that that equipment is, you know, stored properly.
Yeah,
So
yes,
it doesn't.
you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is one of the main reasons why we are seeing, you know, substantial increase in commercial break and enters. And with respect to, you know, shoplifting, we have persistent enforcement efforts happening with shoplifting. I know last year at this reporting period, we were up 27% when it came to shoplifting offenses. And this reporting period, I believe we are down to 8 or 6%. So, and at one point we were almost down 54%. So we will continue to enforce our boost and bust operations and continue to address the retail theft in the city.
Yeah, good job. Just one more question, just, you know, people are getting really hurt out there with vehicles. 2 hit and runs in 1 week, alleged hit and runs in 1 week. That's criminal. And I'm just wondering, I know we have all of our stats on vehicle collisions, fatal, non-fatal, but maybe we can somehow draw some attention to the criminal act of hit and runs, and have a stat on those with all the other crimes, as opposed to it being separate, that it's treated just as serious, you know, as an assault with a weapon or anything else. I mean, not like everybody's reading our reports, but I am just throwing things out there, just how disturbed I am about hearing about the horrible accidents that have happened this week. So I don't know if you have a comment, but.
Yes, to the chair, to Councilor Glanders, those were 2 very serious incidents where people were very seriously injured. It is not that of a common occurrence here, but I know that starting on December 31st, you know, around 6 in the morning, we had our, you know, first incident, and then since that, we had 3 others, you know, 2 that resulted in fatalities, 2 in serious injuries. And again, you know, RCMP continues to promote education and continue to inform our public every year about change in weather, change in lighting, and, you know, and rules of the road. So we will continue to do that. But those are certainly, you know, really tragic incidents, and I think, you know, the more we can make our public aware, I think it's more safety is going to be out there, so. But as far as stats are concerned, like I said, it's not a common occurrence, but if those stats are required, we can certainly look into that as well.
Yeah, just to follow up, I guess the best thing we could do is, the RCMP could do is be successful in their investigations and bring
Yes.
those people to justice, and that would hopefully deter other people from the same thing.
Yes, thank you. And if I just may add to the chair, to Council Glanders, that we have made progress in one of the investigations.
Great.
So that's good news.
Good,
And
thank you.
there were media, actual, the RCMP did some media outreach on the severity of hit and runs, like there were media reports on that were sent out. I know I received them
Yes,
about the severity and the importance of it, and under what section of the criminal code
yes,
it's included in. So thank you for that.
thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, thanks for the report, Chief. Yeah, I do want to just acknowledge the work that's being done on the shoplifting issue and the number of projects, the number of arrests. It's very important to the business community, and it's a tough environment out there for our local businesses, so thanks very much for that. Just on the theft of auto theft issue, the stat has gone up quite a bit, 70-something%, but the numbers are still relatively small. But if you could just comment on that in terms of any idea on what's driving that? Is it still just like, you know, younger people joyride, stealing the car temporarily? Is it being taken to do crime in? Is it being dumped? Where is it being recovered? Those kind of things. Or do we have a larger issue to do with stealing newer, more expensive cars we hear about from Ontario in particular for export to external markets? So you might have a comment on that.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. First of all, I know in this reporting period, the auto theft is increased 77% compared to last report. Last report, we had 13 autos that were stolen from the city, which was significantly below our average. And this reporting period, we have 23, so we have 10 more autos. So that's why the 77%. But there are, you know, a variety of reasons why autos are stolen. And, you know, sometimes people will rent vehicles, rental cars, they're not returned on time, they will report it as stolen. Sometimes it could be taking vehicle without owner's consent, or as you mentioned, joyriding, and people are concerned. So the best thing or the quickest thing to do is, you know, call the police and say the vehicle is reported stolen. And, but then there are some other are stolen here as well. But as far as the Ontario connection is concerned, we are aware that there's organized crime element involved in those type of vehicles where the VIN numbers are changed and altered, and these vehicles are in containers and off to different continents. So we are aware of that, and those type of investigations, you know, we are also working on those as well.
Okay, thanks. Just two quick comments through the chair. Just on the hit and run issue, I mean, I agree with the seriousness of it and everything. And a message, part of the message for the public is, you know, the accident is one thing. Stay at the scene, because you're compounding your problems if you leave the scene and are involved in a hit and run. Because often there's so many contributing factors to a collision that if the police come and attend and investigate, you know, your risk, your liability, you're just magnifying it 10 or 20 or 100-fold by leaving the scene. So that would be part of my message to people. And just the last comment on community engagement and all the work your members are doing. And Councillor Glanders, I think, mentioned it in relation to the fire department, and it's kind of the same thing. You know, both agencies, and yours in particular at this point in time, are doing a lot of community involvement and community engagement. There was the toy run, there was a pedestrian safety campaign at Brighouse Transit Stop, and a whole bunch more. And I think it's not just the members, it's the volunteers too, like with the Speed Watch program. So I know Richmond's really actively involved in that. It all contributes to making the community safer, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of volunteer work, a lot of member time, but it's very much worthwhile. So I just thought I'd acknowledge that, and it's in the report. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, just, Chief, if you could just refer to your sexual offenses, up 54% a 54% decrease from the previous month. So it's come down substantially. What does that do to it? Did we get a prolific offender? Did we get someone? Is it indecent acts? What is it that's with respect to that? That's significant.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Heath, this is again one of those incidents where in previous reporting, we had 44 sexual offenses reported, and quite a few of them came to us from BC ICE, the British BC Integrated Child Exploitation Unit. So from time to time, throughout their investigations, they may discover child pornography-related investigations that are happening in a particular city, and they will bundle those files and they'll, send it to the police jurisdiction. So that's what happened, last time in the last report. But that's kind of the main factor as to, why there's a decrease in this report.
Okay, thank you. And the other one is the mental health issue, and I believe we did draft up a letter to Coastal Health. Does anyone recall if we got a reply?
Last week,
It was just last week?
last time, I believe we drafted one and complained about the wait times.
And so we're just awaiting a reply.
Yes.
Okay.
And through the chair to Councillor Heath, if I may just add, we have been engaged with Vancouver Coastal Health as well. They are our close partners, having those discussions as to, what we can do, how we can reduce those times. And I know in this report, the average wait time has gone down from 128 minutes to 119, even though that's 9 minutes, but there's a little bit of improvement, but we are working and we'll continue to have those engagements with our partners from Vancouver Coastal Health and others. There's another meeting that is set up in February with my line officers and the medical staff, and we're trying to come up with those solutions here as well.
Good. And my last comment relates to your drug-related social disorder calls. I think this is a absolutely fantastic way to look at the issue, because if you look at some of the other numbers related to our drug crisis that we've gone through previously, you're starting to see a downward trend in not only what your officers are having to respond to and confirming whether it's drug-related or not, even when we have our fire department and all that responding. So I'm not saying it's empirical by any way, but if you look at it anecdotally, I think our drug issues are starting to decrease in the city of Richmond. I hope I'm correct that way, but I think we just need a bit more information for it. But this is a great stat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Day?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Oh, I just love the way these reports are laid out because I can always find some good news. And I appreciate that. The boost and bust that we're targeting local businesses, I was very happy to see that 10 suspects were arrested. That's a great program, and I love to see targeted efforts such as that. I also saw that arson was down 31% since the same month in 2024, and that is also very good news. Assault with a weapon was down 36% to the previous month. Very impressive. And then residential break-ins were down 5% from the previous month. And shoplifting was down 8% from the previous period last year. We have to pick and choose a little bit here. Theft from autos was 8% down from the same period of last year. And when I look at the crime trends, as always, we are in second to top position for the least amount of crime, with once again Coquitlam beating us out. And what can we do to be number one and have the lowest crime rate in Metro Vancouver?
Well, through the chair to Councillor Day, I mean, it's not because our members are not doing the best that they can. As I have stated previously as well, we do have the rail coming here and it's also going to the airport. So that really provides that easy access to these individuals. And And every time we have a boost and bust operation, majority of these individuals are not from Richmond. So they hop on the train and they are here, they commit the crime, and then they leave. So, yes, so we'll stay on top of that, and it is our aim, it is our objective to, there was a time that we had the lowest violent crime, and I have noticed that violent crime has come down, which is a really good news. And so we will stay on top of that, with the objectives of, bringing these numbers down even further.
Yeah, and I think it is safe to say that the Vancouver Airport and the SkyTrain absolutely contribute to every single of the numbers that are in the report.
Yes, to the chair, to Councilor Day, you are absolutely right.
Yeah, and then I think one of the reasons that our numbers are as good as they are is things like the volunteer police program. I mean, it's very popular, and it gives people an opportunity to have an amazing volunteer experience, and the opportunity for the people in Richmond to have more access to policing, which I think is very, very important. And then the youth section promoting safe and healthy behaviors with 130 school visits. Yes. Once again, being proactive. Let's not wait for the crime to happen. Let's try to stop it before it happens. And I was really pleased to see that there are 473 DARE students in the grade 5 program where they're learning the dangers of drugs and the importance of staying away from them. So I think that the work that we're doing above and beyond solving crimes is helping to have less crime. Would you agree?
Yes, I do, and to the chair, to Councilor Day, you talked about DARE, and you have seen that officer here in this chair one time. It is Constable Tammy Walker. Yeah. She's a trooper, and this is as a result of her compassion and dedication to helping our youth. And so it's just so nice to see that, through her, we are making such a big difference in young people's lives.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
We have a recommendation? Second, all in favor? Thank you. RCMP OIC briefing, anything to add?
Nothing for today. Thank you.
Thank you. 5.1 encampment on Jacobs Road and MOTI. Maybe you want to stay for it, maybe you don't. Councillor Heath, you?
And yes, and I'm just going to let Mr. Corrado talk about this because I've had 2 discussions with him today on it. So this was identified by a resident in the East Richmond area, and got a phone call with respect to what is going on there, and I had no idea that this was separate from the 5 in Westminster problem. And it is basically from Highway 99 east to Jacobs Road and Westminster Highway north. And it wasn't confirmed, so I did get a hold of Mr. Corrado, and he went to work on it right away, and I want to appreciate that, and I'll just turn it over to Mr. Corrado.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, this location is quite a concern area for us, along with our colleagues from Richmond Fire Rescue. This is one of the locations that is, it is on MOTT, Ministry of Transportation and Transit land. We've had extensive discussions with our counterparts from MOTT to take action, given what we view to be threats to life and safety. Specifically, our worst fear is that there is a fire that might lead to injury or death of someone in that location. Crews from RFR did respond to that location. There was a fire. There is also critical infrastructure located in the vicinity. It is above the jet fuel pipeline. So we are, again, working with our colleagues from MOTT to take urgent action. And I can state that we have been working extensively to plan operations on some of these unsheltered sites on MOTT land, and this committee and council should be able to see the outcome of those operations prior to our next community safety committee meeting, because we view it as a very serious threat to life and safety.
And I think we should be very, very cognizant of this. And I know our solicitor has, I believe, corresponded with the province with respect to this. And, I'm not sure if there's any response directly from the province. Tony or Mark, you can comment on, or even Jim. We've got to deal with this. We just can't keep writing letters to the province asking them to take action when it's on a near critical infrastructure. And there's been a couple of incidents there. What are we thinking of? This is ridiculous. We understand people in their circumstances that don't have housing and that, but we can't put them in more danger because of that. So, Tony, I don't know if you've got a...
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, we have not received any positive information from the ministry. So we are proceeding, as Mr. Corrado has mentioned, that we will be taking a proactive effort. And in the event the ministry decides to challenge us, we will contest that in court if that's the case. But we're certainly taking it as seriously as you've articulated. We recognize that they're not fulfilling their responsibility, and we're stepping up to make sure that safety is paramount, and that's recognized.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed as well, I can add that some of the measures that were taken were haphazard at best and sometimes detrimental to the situation. So there was 2 patrols essentially done that led to nothing. There was also the allocation of some bins where occupants were told to, as they wish, put some of their items there. Our staff had concerns, and then my understanding is one of those bins caught fire. So these efforts have been detrimental, and they are not done in coordination with our staff that has a lot of experience on the ground there.
Just so I can be satisfied, our inspections do not include the province being with us. Is that correct? Have we invited them? Have we asked them to? Do they deny it, or do they not have an enforcement branch?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, they do have an enforcement branch. It's very short-staffed, given their scope in the entire province. We have been inviting them for the better part of a year, and they've made 2 patrols. There is not proactive communication, and I have to say that unlike other ministries where there is extensive cooperation, particularly given our strategy, which is to take a firm but humane approach. In many instances, we find homes and services for people that are affected by this, so we view it as very critical to coordinate with our counterparts in the province. But no, we haven't had a proactive coordination or patrols at an operational level, which is actually quite surprising because we do have good relations with other ministries, but in this case, it's been a bit sluggish at best.
Just to confirm, Madam Chair, the mayor has written a letter to the province with respect to this. I recall seeing something
Yeah,
in our
but this
packet.
is a new
This is a
location,
new
so maybe
location.
we want to send that. It seems interesting that we can't arrest somebody for arson, perhaps, if they're lighting fires in bins, but
If something
there's that.
blows up, there might be. Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs?
Thanks, and through the chair. Yeah, new location for me, Councillor Heed, so thanks for bringing it up. And just one point on that for the public, if they're listening, I mean, we do need to hear about these things, so bringing these issues and locations forward is important, however you want to do it to the city. Just because I haven't heard of this location before today, how long have we been trying to coordinate action with the Ministry of Transportation?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, it's been months. And if you look at it in a larger historical time span, this dates back years. We did have that fatal fire under the Oak Street Bridge that goes back a couple of years now. And we really took stock of that and tried to formulate some lessons learned. And we were assured there would be better communications at the staff level. I understand that there was a labor strike action that occurred, and we do have some allowance for that, but we really do need better communications at an operational level, and it has to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree with that point. Thanks for that information. You know, while we want to be compassionate and caring about people and their situations and trying to find housing and whatever the other issue might be, like mental health, for instance, we certainly want to do that. But we don't want to be paralyzed into inaction by our overemphasis on compassion, because sometimes some actions just have to stop. And I'm not totally familiar with all the details of this, but that's part of the investigation. But I am curious too, just things like access to this site. I have to get it in my mind. I know where it is, but specifically. And what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with campers? Are we dealing with tents? Are we dealing with people living out? And maybe you don't want to get into this in a public setting, but and how many campers are we talking about? Like, what is the scope of this problem? If you want to comment on it, if you don't, that's fine. And I thought part of this area was fenced too, but maybe I'm confused on the location. So calls for service is the last thing. I hear about an arson. Have we had other calls for service to do with anything in this location?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, we do receive calls for service for a number of different MOTT locations. I can get a breakdown of which specific location. One of the issues is there's no specific civic address for this, so we tend to try to find a coordinate that's proximate to it. Yeah. But suffice it to say, the latest update we have is there are 3 individuals usually at the site. It can fluctuate up or down. The site also includes RVs, campers, vehicle parks, and an accumulation of other debris, which we consider to be chattel and combustibles.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, just following up on that, thank you for bringing it up. I guess I have a question as we sit around the table here. How long do we wait for inaction when action should be taken? You know, we can sit here and pontificate all we want, whether we have jurisdiction. We can do what we have in our jurisdiction. As you well know, under the other bridge, we got something done, and I think we were probably part of it. So I guess my question is, do we write more letters? Do we keep bombarding it? Who do we continue to approach so that something is done? These things are not going to go away. We'll be doing this next month, and we'll do this in July, and the next council will deal with it. And I guess my question is how I think we should be pushing right to the end on it, and at least we're doing our part for what we're doing and asking for somebody whose responsibility it is to do their part. To let it go and stop here, I know, Councillor Heed, you brought it up. Do we write the appropriate minister? Do we write other ministers? We have a minister in our own community. Then do we stand on their doorstep and say, talk to the Premier? Let's get something done. I guess it's a frustration, and we're not solving it. We're not moving ahead. Staff are doing the yeoman's task and doing the best that they can, but further it's going to happen, and that will move around to another facility somewhere else. So anyhow, as a member of the committee, I hope other committee members have the same concern. We need some action, okay? We've got action when we did other things, and we need some action here. So I just leave that. I don't expect Mr. Coronado to solve it, okay? I'm trying to give him support and our people support. And I think the only way we can do it is the whole committee in the city give people support. Because the public can bring something up in another week. We can talk about this all we want. But I think we need to continue in the same way we're asking for information from the health department. We need to get it, okay? It's needed. So anyhow, I don't know what other people feel about it, but I think we should send action, and if we have to do anything, request us to do anything, we send them a bill and we'll clean it up. I leave it at that.
Councillor Day?
Well, thank you so much, Councillor Heed, for bringing this to our attention. I had no idea this was there. Is it safe to say, Mr. Corrado, that when the city sends out bylaw officers and police officers and firefighters, it's a compassionate care where you spend a lot of time getting to know the individuals and trying to, convince them to take the assistance that's there?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, that is always the case. That's our first approach. And I would be remiss if I didn't say the majority of people do appreciate that care, and there's a strong rapport. There is a small minority who reject that care. And I remember having one of our staff brief me on a conversation that he had with one of the individuals and said, in a perfect world, what is it that you would want? And he laughed and he said, oh, I would take a penthouse downtown. So we had availability for a bed, we had care for them. And so there is a small percentage of individuals that are intent on a degree of social disorder. And when that's the case, then we need to regulate and do what we can to mitigate the problem.
See, that's exactly what I think we should do. Rules be rules, but to heck with it, We've got to get the job done, and these people deserve the compassionate care and assistance and help that we can provide. And if the Ministry of Transportation isn't going to step up to 2 crummy visits, it's just not good enough. As far as I'm concerned, what they're doing is cruel and unusual punishment to do nothing. So, from my perspective as a city councillor, I'd say do what you need to do, help the people, and if the Ministry of Transportation has a problem with that, they could deal with this council.
Thank you. So, Mr. Corrado, is there what can we do to support you in this process?
To the chair, staff are actively working with other departments and other agencies regarding operational plans. So we should be able to brief in the near future. And I think it will be an interesting test case to see how that plays out. We do hope that there is a follow through of some of the at least initial commitments to the mayor's letter. There was a response, and we're still awaiting support from the ministry on that. So I really view this as 2 tracks. One, there's this idea of the political communications and the follow through in the province. At the same level, there's this operational staff level track, and we're hoping for some progress on both of those levels. So certainly the ability for that communication and dialogue at a political level, because it is a shared problem. The province does have significantly more resources than we do at the city level to deal with this, but nonetheless, we're of the mindset that it's reached a point where we can't wait.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to 5.2.
Question?
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Wolf.
Councillor Wolf is online, has a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm very familiar with the location. There's been encampments there in the past. If you imagine driving north from Ironwood on Highway 91, and then you take the turnoff to go east on heading north on 99, and you take the exit to go east on 91. You go underneath the Westminster Highway overpass, and then on your right-hand side is the east part of the Richmond Nature Park. That's where the jet fuel pipeline took a bunch of the edge of that bog away to put their 14-kilometer pipeline to the airport. And where it comes out of the nature park and heads up the corridor of Highway 99 again, where it comes out is the driveway in where these vehicles have been going. And I've noticed the last week I've seen these like mud tracks up off ramp or on ramp to get onto 91. There's been like muddy routes into the bush, and Vancouver Airport Fuel Facilities Corporation, VAFFC, who put in the pipeline, that used to be blocked off, and it's not now. And that's the way that this has been allowed to establish. When they had the municipal agreement with the city to do all the things they did to put in the pipeline, there was agreements that they were going to monitor their sites. They were going to make sure they don't become dumping grounds, that they're not going to be sites that lead to wildfires that burned the Richmond Nature Park to the ground. So this is, I think, an example of them not following through their commitment and the contracts that they signed. I think that should be included into staff's investigation here. I didn't hear if staff actually inspected the site to determine if there's any impacts on the city land. If you go to the site, I've been there when there was no one else there, and before the pipeline came in, but there's no clear boundary of where this MOTT land ends and the city land begins. So I think staff should be instructed to go in and make sure that there's no impacts on the city of Richmond land, such as harvesting wood to burn fires, to deposit waste, human waste or otherwise. So I think we should ensure that we don't have impacts happening to city land, and that can be done right away. I think, yeah, I'll leave it to that. If we need additional costs for putting up a fence or cleaning up city land, I think it should go to the VAFFC. Thanks.
Through the chair to Council Wolf, certainly we can provide some more detailed graphics and maps that delineate some of the distinction between where the city property is and along with MOTT land. And we can do a more fulsome analysis to see if there's been any environmental impacts as a result of the unsheltered site being there, and we can report back to committee in the form of a memo.
Okay. Thank you. We can't just tow unauthorized vehicles, apparently. Okay, 5.2 then, the Cambion 3 Road hit and run. Councillor Heed?
Yeah, this has been bugging me since I was made aware of it, and it's tragic all around. And I've spoken to the police chief about this too, and Mr. Corrado, and there were a reason these young adults were at that location for a particular reason, and Mr. Corrado is delving into it. I understand there was what the media mentioned was an all-ages dance somewhere in the particular area. And so my point in my inquiry to Mr. Corrado was whether this was a sanctioned event in a sanctioned building, a permitted building, or not. And I think Mr. Corrado has looked into it today, and he does have some information that can be provided, and I think we have to be sensitive to the fact that there is an ongoing police investigation regarding the tragedy here. But I think if, for example, there was an event held in an area that they weren't authorized to do it, I think there has to be some significant action. So I'll just turn it over to Mr. Corrado.
Through the chair, Councillor Heed, yes, there appears to be evidence that there was an event that occurred at that location, which is specifically 4211 number 3 Road, Lightpont Place. There is no business license for event hosting at that location, and there wouldn't be because it's contrary to zoning. So those are the two areas that we are pursuing right now actively with an investigation. It is an aggressive investigation, and there's reasonable grounds that some action will be taken. I can't comment on the any potential criminal investigation or the tragic loss of life, but it is a real strong reason why we want these businesses to be licensed and zoned appropriately, because our first concern is that there could be a loss of life or an impact on the community there. So we take those very seriously, and we will be following up our investigation rather aggressively.
Councillor Glanders?
Thanks, through the chair, and thanks for bringing it up. And I agree, obviously, that having a large number of kids, 17, 16-year-olds in an unsanctioned, unlicensed venue can lead to issues. So something else could have happened relating to that, and we should pursue it. At the same time, I just want to highlight that anybody, anywhere, any kid, anywhere, this was at 11:30 at night, kids go down to 3 Road to go to Hot Pot, they go wherever, and altercations happen with this age group for some reason. The way they communicate with each other is sometimes really messed up, and And then for whatever reason, the kid felt he needed to run away from the two kids and got hit by a car. So I don't see the actual event as being related to where the kids were earlier, even though that does need to be pursued. But it's just, I just don't want to be a, you know, I got hit by a car, well, why were they at this party? Like, it would have happened anyway, regardless of where they were. But it's just that, that's just a point I want to make, is that it concerns me how kids communicate with each other and get aggressive with each other. And it's been something I've noticed in that age group the last few years. I've got kids that age, and my kids have been, yeah, I don't keep my kids out of it, but, you know, the way that they are aggressive with each other and hurt each other is the real issue here.
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, it's certainly within that demographic. There is ample criminological evidence across most the Western world or developed world to show that there is a higher likelihood to be a victim or a victimizer just within that particular age group, more at risk. But I believe across the board over many criminological stats show there's a decline in youth-related crime over a 20, 30-year span. So there's some solace there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heed?
I get, and I certainly understand that, but from my experience, when these events do take place in a particular area where you're getting a large group of people, I think we had a conversation with respect to this earlier, there are certain security parameters that need to put in place in the adjacent area with respect to that.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, there's a lot of different elements. There's security parameters. It's one of the reasons why I think it'll come up a little bit later. Our joint inspections team has conducted a number of inspections to liquor primaries. We want to ensure there's no underage drinking, there's no smoking, there's adequate security. There are measures in place. Just given the nature of when alcohol is involved, when there's, for example, occupancy, there could be fire issues that are related to that. There's a whole host of different risks that can come into play.
So, but, okay, no, I won't comment. I'll just let you do the investigation. Thank you.
Yeah, we all know fights happen. We've all been to high school and we've all seen fights amongst that age group, and this is an unfortunate incident. And if there's an unsanctioned event happening, that's also an issue because we have a whole business licensing program, and that's the whole point of it, is to get a business license to have proper events. Speaking of business licenses, 5.3, the travel agent with the business license. And I guess on top of this, I'm going to ask, well, I'll let you speak to this then first. The travel agent lost their license through travel agents, but the travel agents governing body didn't contact us specifically right away.
To the chair, so the Consumer Protection group, part of the Consumer Protections BC, has rescinded the license for Vegas Vacation located in Lansdowne, and they contacted us on Friday. We've had discussions with them, and it is necessary for that license to be in effect from Consumer Protections BC in our eyes for the current license for Vegas Vacation business license from the city to be considered valid. So staff will be likely coming back, very likely, with a report to council. And it will be under section 5.3 of the business license bylaw, which stipulates that a business must be in good standing with provincial and federal statutes. And that report would either suspend or cancel that business license. So we are still in the process of collecting the evidence for it, but the evidence is quite strong. That notification was on Consumer Protection BC's website. It's still there where it lists those violations as well.
Okay, thank you. So it was, staff did hear about it before it came on CTV.
To the chair, I'll have to get back to you on the exact sequencing of it, but I'm aware that our staff received a phone call on Friday.
Thank you. Councillor Heed?
Yes, and Tony, you may be able to answer this. So if consumer branches pull their license and they need to have that license in order to be a travel agent, and they're not operating under the regulations here in the province of British Columbia, we would not have to go through a show cause hearing to remove their license?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, we would have to go through that same hearing process that we went through with Tokyo Beauty.
So we would have to go through a show cause?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Day?
Thank you very much. If this establishment was in an established mall of some kind, would they not also require some kind of documentation that they're accredited?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, that's correct. It's one of the checks that we have for these types of businesses where we become aware that there's a provincial or federal statute. This business has been operating for some time, but there is this synergy. You see it all the time with, for example, having the appropriate health permits to operate or having the appropriate liquor permits to operate. So we do those checks with our counterparts from the province and the federal government.
So we're going to do an investigation, but shouldn't the operator also, and potentially the mall manager, have some responsibility in proving that they did their due diligence and proving that they had a license? If it was only a month they had no license, that makes a big difference than if they didn't have a license for 3 years.
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I can say there is an active investigation on the way. I can say that we are not the only agency that's investigating, but that's probably as far as I can go and open right now.
Well, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. And while we're talking about business licenses, you sent us a memo the other day about a joint investigation team project where 24 bylaw and MIT tickets were issued and $9,400 in fines was issued?
Yes, to the chair. I mean, there's synergy from an earlier point that was brought up about how we do enjoy good cooperative relationships with various provincial agencies. So GPEB, or Gaming Policy Enforcement Branch, their mandate is to target illegal gaming activities. And at a staff-to-staff level, we reached out along with our counterparts from the RCMP and established the Joint Inspections Team to investigate incidences of illegal gaming in the city. And that joint task force has been in the works for several months. And our first operation took place recently, and it led to, we inspected 30 locations and the issuance of 24 combined bylaw violation and municipal ticket information tickets totaling $9,400. And 2 major illegal gambling operations were disrupted. And several minor operations were also disrupted as well. But it's an issue, particularly given the history of some of these illegal gaming operations in Richmond. So we want to make sure that we have an aggressive posture with this, and I believe this is the first time that GPEB, that I'm aware of, has reached out and worked with municipal bylaws departments to lead this type of joint task force. So we look forward to further operations and the sharing of information between our respective agencies.
Okay. And our former OIC, Will Ing, is part of this group that you're working with. Is that correct? He was
To the
part of that
chair,
group?
the larger umbrella group that the city's recently been part of and is the only municipal agency is the CIFA BC, the Counter Illicit Fines Alliance. And that group features GPEB, and staff recently took part of a symposium last year where we were working with and receiving information with other agencies, including GPEB, including the CRA. And this type of active free flow of information leads to these synergies where joint task force can set up. And one has to say this is really fundamentally based on trust, because there's a lot of meshing of different rules and regulations and operating procedures and communications and, frankly, cultures between different organizations. So when that trust is there, we can pursue parallel investigations and synergistic investigations. So, for example, in addition to the ticket issuance we did, there were various letters written by GPEB, cease and desist type letters. So there's ways that we can complement each other. And the STIFA BC Alliance is one of these examples where we can leverage this sort of hub. Its principal areas to target financial related crime, economic integrity crime writ large, money laundering, which unfortunately Richmond has been victimized by in the past. But this free flow of information is key. And frankly, it also offers an ability to lobby the provincial government and the federal government to follow through on some of their promises that they've made in terms of interdicting money laundering.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. And then the final one was 5.4, overgrown hedges on sidewalks and sight lines for traffic. We sort of regularly receive complaints from people regarding this. What is the process for this, if we can just highlight it again for the public and for council's refresher? Because I think there's a belief that city pays, like, actively patrols this, whereas I think it's by complaint.
To the chair, that's correct. So principally, if the shrub's on a boulevard, which is adjacent to a private property, it's the responsibility, or in fronting a private property, it's the responsibility of the property owner to maintain those shrubs. And specifically, we're really concerned about its impact on the roadway, on sight lines, and the boulevard maintenance bylaw. It has various provisions in there where really under the direction of the General Manager of Public Works, there is various authorities. First and foremost, we reach out once we've received the complaint from the public, and it is primarily on a calls for service complaint basis. We contact the property owner, and the vast majority of times, there is voluntary compliance, and the property owner takes care of the matter. There are instances when we don't, and there are also instances where it is very exigent that there is something done because we believe it could be obstructing traffic. The General Manager of Public Works has the authority to step in and have that shrub remedied immediately, cut down, and then the property owner will be billed for that cost.
Okay, thank you. Because I think we ran into a little bit of a problem with this on trees that had not been maintained by people when the Steveston bike lane got put in on the north side of the Westwind neighborhood between 2 Road and Railway. So a lot of people complained that their trees got cut back, but when in fact they probably should have been charged for the cost of those trees getting cut back.
To the chair, yes. In many instances, if it's something that's exigent, needs to be taken care of right away, there's an ability to go in and then remedy the situation and then seek compensation for that cost. Again, that's if it's exigent. If we do have time, we do work through that education piece, and most of the time the property owners are voluntarily comply.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Day?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm actually aware of 2 little old ladies who happen to have properties on roads with sidewalks, and in both cases, they simply can't manage it. So in that case, is it cost-effective for them to say to the city, can you please just deal with it and send me the bill, or is it cheaper for them to try to find a landscape company?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, in these types of real and hypothetical cases, we look at them on a case-by-case basis, where we obviously, staff have discretion in terms of if there's some financial hardships or compassion can be exercised. These may be instances where that can occur, and there could be provisions made for within the Public Works budget to accommodate that. But we would have to see the specific cases and then review the facts.
So, just a follow-up question then. Should these little old ladies call you first and say, look, we got a notice, what would it cost me if you guys do it? Or should they try to go out and somehow find people to do it?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, if they've received notice, I think the very first step is to contact the bylaw enforcement officer or the director of Public Works who's may have sent a letter through to begin that dialogue. so that there's no further or imminent enforcement action that occurs from there. And then there can be a solution that's mutually beneficial, that's sought.
So the city's not looking to gouge people, we're just trying to work with them and try to find a compassionate solution to the problem.
Through the chair to Councillor Day, that's indeed the case. It's not a revenue generator.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
But we're also not a landscaping company. Councillor Glanders.
Thanks. Yeah, but just a clarification. So there's just been some talk in the development community that especially with the small-scale multi-unit houses coming in and what we might need to do about the tree situation is get more trees on the boulevards in front on the city part of the property and leave the development part alone. So in the case where, like, if it was part of the city tree planting plan to get it on the city property, the city's responsible to prune those trees? And is it just the ones where the owner had planted a hedge that is on city property, but they're the ones who planted it, that they're responsible for trimming it, or what's the difference?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, I believe the issue is, again, the sight lines. It depends on what height the branches are, and again, it's on a case-by-case basis. So if it's a city-managed tree, then we would work with our Parks and Public Works crew to manage that issue.
So
But
they're
again,
city-managed versus,
there's a bit of, yes, there is that, and the boulevard is really a shared space. So there's certain requirements for the property owner to maintain that, and especially with what shrubbery they do plant. There's certain heights, again, because of the sightline issues. And there's also that issue of ingress on the sidewalk, which could represent tripping hazards and obstructions to people in, for example, who are disabled or baby carriages and the like. So again, we would have to look on a case-by-case basis. There is also a boulevard bulletin, informational bulletin, which we can direct the public to as well. And I can provide some more information in a follow-up to committee that outlines that.
okay, just one more question. So in the case that we got a memo last week from somebody who says they were just about hit from a car backing out of the driveway, I think, where the hedge was overgrown. So has that one been expedited as far as the city going and saying, hey, I need to trim this, or we're going to trim it and bill you? Like, is that one being taken care of since there was a near miss?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, I can get back to you regarding the status of that. If it was determined that there was an immediate obstruction to sightline, we would recommend strongly to the General Manager of Public Works through the Director to take imminent action and clean that up so that the sightlines are not blocking traffic. But I definitely can look into that and get back to you.
Yes, an update, yeah, thanks.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. No real questions, just a quick comment. Yeah, we get a lot of emails from it. I understand it's largely complaint-driven. I understand we have requirements for corner clearances and things like that. But we talk a lot, for instance, about snow removal on the few days a year that it snows, if it even snows in a year. And I think one of the things we could be a little bit more proactive about, maybe provide a little bit more education or information to people, is their responsibility when it comes to this issue, because it doesn't take long for you to walk down almost any street, especially more mature ones, and find trees and hedges that are overgrown. You know, they're below 6 feet. They've got sometimes invasive species growing out of them. They're crowding people off the sidewalk onto the street. And it's a 365-day a year, 24 hours a day problem. And for people going down the sidewalk who have accessibility issues, or maybe are riding a bike on the street and they get racked by invasive species, yellow bramble, it's a serious issue. So I think some education, some awareness for the public would be good. And also a little bit of proactive action even on the part of staff. We don't need to wait for a complaint every time when you go down a street, and I could name a couple locations off the top of my head that are just clearly, obviously a danger for people that are on the sidewalk, or a clearance visibility issue for vehicle traffic, bikes, pedestrians. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, it definitely is in the analogy with snow is a good one because of the fact of the seasonality of it. So typically staff try to put a lot of their educational messaging in around periods which will just prior to a snow event when we do have time. And in addition to that, we do have a growing season where we do see an increase in calls for service in relation to that. So timing those communications in and around that time. And of course, it does grow throughout the year here, but we see an acceleration of those calls for service that might maximize the effectiveness of those communications. So we'll definitely work with the Director of Communications to proactively push that out in advance of the growing season or during the growing season.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Move adjournment? Or do we have any managers' reports before we? You sure? Thanks. Move adjournment. Thanks. We are adjourned.